The views expressed on this show belong to the host and guests of the Dust to Dawn podcast. For any questions or concerns, you can contact the host at dondon6701452 at gmail.com. All right, we're recording live. This episode is not filmed in front of a live studio audience. Well, my one person, the producer. Today's item of the day is this Mont Blanc wallet. Ooh, what's that? I got $1. I got a $400 wallet, only $1 in it. Story of my life. And if you future me, this is still early in the video, so you can zoom in. Don't be lazy. If you look over here in this 1080 zoom in, you can see that there's bite marks because I'm very smart. I left this on my bed and my lovely dog Nami went and ate it. She was hungry. Like I don't feed her every day and she gets treats. Sinky clap. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Dust to Dawn podcast, and thank you so much for making me a part of your routine. Anyway, hello. Got some technical difficulties first time. It's all right. We live and we learn. No worries. We're not paid yet. When we get them big sponsors, when we can afford to have like people everywhere monitoring everything, that's the time I'll be like, man, but right now I'm just like, it's all good. I take every opportunity as a learning opportunity. You know what I'm super saying? Anyway, quick update throughout the weekend. Today's Monday recap, as I like to call it, because this is recorded on Monday. I'm back into cycling. Happy belated Father's Day. By the time this recording comes out, we're a little behind. So maybe tomorrow being Tuesday, June 18th, might come out. Happy belated Father's Day. We're a little behind in schedule, but it's okay. It's all right. I'm back on cycling. I try to cycle at least once or twice a week now. Me, that was my favorite thing to do. During the pandemic, because the roads were freaking free. Now, I was biking from my place. I live in Tamuning. I was going to Adeloop. And going there, driving with the flow of traffic on the road solo, I was fine. I was wearing bright yellow clothing. But coming back, I was like, I don't want to deal with the traffic lights and the lights, because the sun was going down. So I'm going to ride on the sidewalk. Not the best recommendation for road tires. For road bike tires, those skinny things, for context, I drive, for you cycling nerds, I ride a Giant Propel 2021 carbon frame. I think it's the Propel Advanced one. I think the forks are aluminum, but the rest of the frame is carbon. Anyway, that was a fun time. I'm getting back into more. I'm doing the triathlon training. I'm actually aiming to be a triathlete. I'm trying to be like Nick Bear, be a hybrid athlete. He has a podcast, I think, or he wrote a book. I know he has a podcast. I forgot the name of his podcast, but his book is 25 hours a day. I managed to read snippets out of it. Really, it's making the most out of your time throughout the day. I know in the past I've said, if you want to make things work, you're going to sacrifice, and you got to. But realistically, there really is only 24 hours in a day, and there's only so much you can do in a day, right? We're all human. As much as I like to crank out all these videos, you still need to have time for sleep. And you can dial in everything to the T, but life happens, man. Sometimes you get held back at work. Sometimes you have an accident. Knock on wood. Don't beat yourself up over it. Try and make this routine. And anyway, this episode, we're going to get, I know I said we're not going to get political, and I forgot to start the stopwatch. Oops. Man, last recording, I didn't do a sinky clap in the beginning, but it's okay. There was like an audio issue, so that podcast, I'll probably release it. It'll be like a terrible audio because it's from the onboard mic, so you hear a lot of sound, but Let's see what I can do with it. Spend the time filming anyway. I know I said we're not gonna get political, but I'm not by political. I meant I'm not gonna endorse a party. I'm not gonna endorse the left or the right or the middle. The middle being independent, both nationally and locally. I will mention them every now and then, but this podcast I really wanted to talk about and something that hits near and dear to my heart. Recently, as of this recording 3 days ago, that's June 14th, the House passed a new bill that will affect a lot of creatives. This, let me look up the proper name, but the article from digitalcameraworld.com, DJI drone ban bill passed in House of Representatives. It's not law. It's not the law the president wanted, but it really might happen this time. So essentially, on June 14th, the House of Representatives passed a bill that would effectively ban DJI drones. Now, mind you, even though they passed the bill, the president still has to sign it into law or he could veto it. So the article says, quote, "It didn't happen the way American children learn how a bill becomes law. An idea is debated in both houses of Congress and approved before being signed into law by the president. An elegant system of checks and balances, you might think, but right now, amendments and consolidation are where the real action is." On Tuesday, last week, because of this recording, the White House put out a combined policy document titled HR 8070, the goal being to lay out its ambitions for a 64th consecutive bipartisan National Authorization Act, NDAA. In other words, the law that gives the cash to the armed forces for another year. This law stayed on the floor all week. Here is where drones are at risk. Again, quoting the article from thecameraworld.com. "This is a whopping big bill, quote, and it needs to be bipartisan in general. And especially in an election year, which means that ordinarily fairly crazy ideas like banning consumer drones from a certain Chinese company are getting a lot of attention. Excuse me, I got ahead of myself. The White House policy includes the heading countering countering drone threats in the United States, end quote. This cites House Resolution 4333 and Senate Resolution 1631. These create more powers against domestic drone use, but come at it from an anti-terrorism perspective. I'm going to cite the article again later, but essentially, DJI, for those of you dear listeners, they are the number one in, I think, objectively and subjectively speaking, drone manufacturers in the world. And they also produce microphones, they produce cameras, a 4K camera, they produce gimbals. But this article, we're going to talk about drones and drones in particular because, well, I love my drone. The issue with here in Guam is, for context, I have a DJI Mini 2. It's under the weight limit. It's under 249 grams. Any drone above 250 grams, you would need an FAA license to fly. And even though this drone is under 250 grams, it says right there in the drone body 249 grams, I would need special permission to fly it in certain areas of Guam. Why? Because that's the way it works with the FDA. With the airport. I brain farted over there. But the way with Guam's geography is the Guam Airport Authority is smack dab in the middle of the island. Now, you cannot fly a drone without permission from the FDAA without permission within 6 miles of the airport. I'll repeat that. You can't fly any drone unless you're within 6 miles of the airport or a federal military base. Now, if you know the island of Guam, you would know that there's a military base for every gas station here. I'm not here to get political. I'm just stating facts, okay? We have the National Guard base in the middle of Guam in Barragata. We have Anderson Air Force Base. Fun fact, that's where they filmed Pixels. Pixels, right? Pixels with Adam Sandler and a movie that I'm in. I have like my 5 seconds of Netflix fame, Operation Christmas Drop. Forgot the name of the main actress. I'll Google her later, but she was in the Pretty Little Liars, I think. Anyway, the producer's going to be looking for that. But that's where they filmed some of those scenes. So you got Anderson Air Force, then you got Big Navy. You have the Navy installation down south in Santa Rita. All right. So effectively, the whole island is covered in military base. And again, we have the airport authority in the middle. Oh, there. Kat Graham, thank you so much, producer. I met her. I was able to hold her hand. I'm not saying this in a creepy way. She was about to trip because we were at the beach. We were at Gun Beach. All right. If you know me in another capacity, I am very, very, very political in my private life. And I sold out that day for a paycheck. I'm very like, in my private life, okay, I'm very like, no, we need to keep Guam like this, like that, in my opinion. Again, I'm trying to be very vague. That day, or the night before, actually, I got hit up by one of my friends who has a speaking role in the film. He goes by the alias of Carter. He's like, hey, you want to be an extra in Operation Christmas Drop? Tomorrow's the last day of filming. You get $10 an hour. And free food. And I was just like, are you serious? So I was like, I'm gonna sell myself over there. That people are like, oh, that's cheap, $10 an hour. I'm like, I'm not unionized. Shoot, I'm just happy to be here. I'm gonna be on Netflix. I got my 5 to 10 seconds of fame. And oh my gosh, you can see the continuity error in the cuts. Because you can see me one cut, I'm hella sweaty. Another cut, I'm dry. Another cut, I look like I'm over life. I'm just like, actually, I was over life the whole time. That was okay, so for those of you who don't know, I took screenwriting in college. I didn't graduate. But in my time in university, I took screenwriting. In a script for a movie or a TV show, typically 1 page equals 1 minute on scene. And that scene was a total of 5 minutes. All right? But you think 5 pages, that's ideally. But you gotta mind how many cuts are there. So as a cinematographer, as an aspiring cinematographer, let's be honest, I only have one camera. This dinky Canon M50 that I'm shooting on. I'm broke, all right? This is a Netflix production. Granted, it didn't have that big of a budget, but relatively speaking, but it still had money. Netflix typically shoots on red Komodos. Those are not cheap cameras by any comparison. I think they only had one. So how many from different angles that you have to shoot on? There was like 4 different cuts. I had to listen to the main actor. I forgot his name. I think it was in the Hunger Games. I had to listen to this white man sing the same song, this Islander version of Deck the Halls for 4 hours. All right? 4 hours. Alexander who? Ludwig. I had to listen to Alexander Ludwig sing for 4 hours. All right, that's $40. Honestly, now that I think about it, I do think I was underpaid. I was so annoyed. I was wearing slides. Hold on. Producer allows me to wear my chanclas in my zapatos in the room. I was wearing slides. All right, my foot. For my visual listeners, excuse me. Oh my God, it's a Monday. For my audio listeners, take a look or go on YouTube. You get to see me pull out a Nike slide that is being smooth. It's as smooth as my brain whenever I talk to women. Anyway, it's getting on a tangent. Anyway, my God, I was going all over the place. I talked about DJI drones to Netflix. I say that to say, all right. Like, I thought you had it all lined up. I did, okay. Then I was reminiscing about the past. Anyway, that's where they shot that movie, Operation Christmas Drop. They shot it up in Anderson Air Force Base. And again, we have Big Navy down in Santa Rita. We have Retidian Aqua Preserve, all right? That's also a military installation over there. Then now here where we're recording, we have Marine Corps Base Camp Blaws next door. Literally next door, across the street. So So good luck flying a drone here, regardless if you're under the weight limit. The best places to fly. I still get away with flying in Tumon, but it takes me an hour, a day and a half. By the time my drone is in the air, the girl I'm trying to shoot my shot with finally replies to me. She finally leaves me. She doesn't leave me on red anymore. She actually is like, "Hey, what you do? WYD, what you doing?" All right. So, see, I brought myself back. I found it. I was thinking about why am I talking about Operation Christmas and drones? What's the correlation? Anyway, even though the drone is under 249 grams, I still need to get permission to fly it if I'm anywhere near a military installation, a federal military installation, or within the airport. Again, the airport is smack dab in the middle of Guam. Heck, if you fly near the prison, the Department of Corrections, that's a local facility, it'll flag you down. I'm going to say this anyway, on camera for the record. Recently, someone's drone, it's not mine for this story, and I swear it's not mine. Check the papers. Someone flew a drone in Retidian. You're not supposed to do that. The fact that it even took off says a lot. And, with these drones, DJI, other third-party brands, I'm not too familiar with other third-party brands. I'll look them up during the break, but I'm only familiar with DJI. They track you. They have GPS tracking. That's how it knows to fly back to you when it's on low battery. That's how it knows where you're at. That's how, it has all of these advanced features. Just know the military has even more advanced features, so it knows that it took off and you're flying over the base. That's a security risk. That's a national security risk. Guam is the tip of the spear. Shoot, regardless of how you feel about the military's presence here on island, they're here, and that's a security risk again, because you get to see what's happening in there that most civilians do not have access to. So that's where this gets tricky. All right. I was going to say earlier, in the past, my drone took off in Retidian, and I turned it around. DJI has a thing with the drones where you're able to flip it, unless you're getting a FPV drone, first-person point of view drone. Those are the acrobatic ones. If you flip it, automatically turns off. So I turned it off and I booked it out of Retidian. I was like, ooh. This was a few years ago, so I think statute of limitation does not apply to me anymore. And again, it didn't go anywhere. It turned on and the propellers, and I was like, ooh, we're getting out of here. Anyway, the guy got caught. I didn't get caught because I wasn't in trouble, because I booked it out of there. And there's no proof, I think. After I just said that drones give up a signal, right? But now it gets tricky, because now government is impeding on what some people are arguing our First Amendment right. And what are we going to do? If President Biden signs this bill into law, the anti-DG, I'm going to look up the proper name of the bill, or the proper name of the passed bill. I called it, because I didn't want to look at it before, I called it the anti-DJI bill. Because if you're going to stop drones from this company, and for those of you who don't know, DJI is a company in China. If you're going to stop, and what else is from China? TikTok. I'll get into that in a bit. If we're banning drones from this company, right, from China, tensions are high in China, especially now where we're at in Guam. Our geopolitical situation here makes us a very big risk for other foreign actors and foreign states in this case being foreign entities that are not the United States. We're at risk, all right? So, but bring it back to the creative's perspective. What happens to us now? What happens to my DJI drone should this bill pass? Or is the government going to give me money for my glorified paperweight? Or will DJI sell to an American company? Now, there's already talks of an American company working with DJI to essentially make an American version of the drone. Everything's pretty much the same, just colored green because we're patriotic like that. But even if that thing does happen, what happens to my already bought DJI drone? You know how much my DJI Mavic Mini 2 is? At that time, it was $600 for the Fly More combo. It doesn't shoot log. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It just flies and it gets me decent footage. You know, shoot. I told my late mother, buy me this drone because I don't know if I will like the more advanced ones because one, I'm scared if it flies to the ocean, and that happened to me. The drone has a feature where it will automatically land if it's near a restricted fly zone where you're not supposed to fly at. It was all the way out in Aganya, which is weird because normally I can fly there, and it was like auto landing, so I had to be on the hunt for it in the park. Thankfully, I found it. I told my late mother, I said, if it's this is $600, granted I'm broke, but $600 for a decent drone, not too bad. Okay, I still get professional work out of it. But if my mom got me the nice drone and again, I never flew before, and I lose it in Nimitz Hill or in the ocean of Aganya, $1,200 is not that easy to replace. All right, friends. So, but again, the $600 in today's economy, that goes a long way. As a creative, I use these drones to get shots that 10, 20 years ago, you would have to pay an arm and a leg to get. Regardless of people saying like, oh, it doesn't shoot in 4K, doesn't shoot in a flat profile so I can edit. Man, shut up. Back in the early 2000s, you had to fly in a helicopter to get the shot. Now, people are MacGyvering the ways with Insta360 cameras. But let's be real, a lot of these creative tools that we have, a lot of these parts come from China, as much as you want to admit it. So now, the US government is essentially trying to monopolize. I'm going to say monopolize. I don't think that's the right word. But they're trying to restrict it to US creators being where their products and gear and apps are strictly made and function within US and its allies. Don't you think that's a problem? I know I say be creative in a box. Like use a box, right? If someone gives you a box, in the past I said, use that box to manifest and push the boundaries of your creativity. But how are you going to do that when the one who's putting the box is the government? And I'm not arguing this is tyranny. I am not. This is a conversational piece. Okay? Notice how I'm not sharing my full on opinion. Again, the views expressed in this show belong to me. An opinion. The views and opinions on this show belong to me. But again, this is very, very a peculiar time to be a creative within the United States and its territories. Because in the past, already, the Congress passed a bill to ban TikTok. When they say ban TikTok, they don't necessarily mean ban the app. They're trying to get TikTok to sell from its parent company from China to a US company. Now, this is where it gets very interesting because TikTok's users are American. DJI, well, not all of them, but a good chunk of TikTok's users are American. A good chunk of DJI drone pilots are American. Well, obviously, because this bill affects Americans and American citizens within the territories. Could one argue that this is now impeding on our First Amendment right, our right to freedom of speech and self-expression? And is that why Elon Musk made X? I leave you with that thought, and we'll go more into that right after this quick break. This episode is brought to you by Snap Guam Studios. Film photography is making a comeback on Island. One of the questions I get ever since I started film photography is where I get my roles developed. Snap Guam is a Guam-based photography and videography studio that offers film development and scanning services. They also have a variety of different film stocks like Kodak Gold and my favorite, Portra 800. Want to start getting into film photography? They also sell film cameras from SLRs to rangefinders and disposables. Get your film developed by Snap Guam Studio today. Contact them on Instagram at snap.film.record_gu. This episode is brought to you by D-Day Studios. D-Day Studios is a local photography and videography service run by, well, me. And this is my podcast, so shameless plug. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at D-Day Studio 670 and send me a message if you want to take some bomb photos today. Again, that is D-Day Studio 670 on Instagram. Now back to the episode. Welcome back from the break. Prior to the break, man, dude, Notice we got a can on the desk, on a table. Excuse me. It's my reporter juice. If you know, you know. Anyway, prior to the break, we were talking about, just to give a quick recap, we were talking about how the House of Representatives, how Congress passed a bill that will ban DJI drones in the United States. And I mentioned that a US drone, and during the break, I Googled it. I'm quoting the robotreport.com. The article is titled Anzu Robotics Launches US based clone of DJI Mavic 3. I have a Mavic Mini 2. This is like the above and 250 gram weight drone that you kind of need a license for. But anyway, regardless if it's under 250 grams or not, if it's a DJI product, DJI, say that 10 times fast. If it's a DJI product, if this bill becomes law, essentially it's obsolete. Can't use it anymore. Now, prior to the break, I talked about a company that is essentially cloning the DJI technology and making it under the US flag. By that, I mean, friends, family. I need to come up with a name to call you listeners. We'll come up with that when we hit when I get consistent 3-digit views on YouTube. I'll give you guys a name. Anyway, prior to the break, I said that so long as they're not banning drones, all right, I want to make it very, very clear that this bill and potential law, soon to be law, depending on how Biden sees fit, is not banning commercial drone usage within the US and its territories. Rather, this drone is banning Chinese drones made in China, which is DJI, as their headquarters are in China. And part of the break, I mentioned how there was a US company that's partnering with China, and that's Anzu Robotics. Now, the Robot Report states, while drones from SZDKI Technology Co. arguably dominate the US market for enterprise drone applications, Anzu Robotics LLC is preparing to serve operators that might be affected by a ban on the Chinese-made systems. The DJI Matrix and DJI Mavic products, I never use Matrix, products both offer a wide range of sensor and payload options suitable for use in applications such as inspection, mapping, surveying, and search and rescue operations. In the past year, DJI has increasingly come under criticism because it is a Chinese state-owned business, and many DJI drones are used to inspect and map critical US infrastructure. And again, that was a quote from the article. That's very critical in this conversation piece because, again, the United States under its current administration, and again, I am not endorsing or reprimanding any political candidate or figurehead in this case, but it's very interesting to see both current and past presidents have been very critical of China and their products. Case in point, TikTok. The article then goes on to say, quote, new legislation approved by the House Energy and Commerce Committee on March 20 is part of ongoing efforts by federal and state governments to limit the usage of DJI drones in the U.S. There was unanimous agreement among the committee members as both Republicans and Democrats supported the proposed restrictions, citing national security concerns. Now, I mentioned in the first half how DJI drones have GPS on them, which is how the military in this case of Guam can track whether or not you're flying, if the drone does take off, if you're flying near the installation. That's very problematic because, again, that's a national security risk. And with our geopolitical situation here in Guam and how critical we are, that's a big boo-boo if your drone is flying up, regardless if you think, oh, I just want to see how it looks like over there. If there's a nice landscape over there, the military don't care. They probably would think that you're surveying them as a spy of China. I don't know. Again, I don't know, but that's what I would think. Because why are you flying over a military base? All right? Or a military installation. You could just be flying because Gab Gab Beach is nice, but the military won't know that right away. They're probably going to do a deep dive investigation into you and seize your property. Because, again, although we believe in freedom of speech, is it really free? Ah, producer laughing at me. He's like, I thought you're not going to get political. Well, is it really free though? Freedom of speech does not necessarily equate to free from repercussions. You know, this is federal land and they can do, well, not the whole entirety of Guam or Guam, but these military bases are federal land and they have their own laws and regulations within them. So just because you have freedom of speech doesn't mean that that supersedes the local law within that community, in this case, the military bases. Now, the bill, or excuse me, the article goes on to say, quote, the bills, the Countering CCP Drones Act and the Foreign Adversary Communications Transparency Act are now under consideration in the full U.S. House. This article is a little dated, but argument still stands. Again, the House passed the ban on DGI bills. Quoting this article, the article quotes Representative Ellis Stanific, a Republican New York representative. Excuse me, I'm from Guam, so these American names are kind of hard because, again, I'm foreign and domestic stance in terms of my political status or my citizenship. Excuse me. To repeat, I am foreign in a domestic sense in terms of my citizenship because I'm born in the Sinamai and I'm here in Guam. What that means is I belong to, but I'm not a part of the United States. So the full U.S. Constitution doesn't fully apply to me. Hence why this New York Republican representative's name is hard to pronounce. I'm going to call her Representative, he or she, Ellis. That's Elise. Quoting, the article quotes this representative saying, quote, Congress must use every tool at our disposal to stop Communist China's monopolistic control over the U.S. drone market. And this representative is the primary sponsor of the bills cleared by the committee. Now, the article then says, however, many industry insiders are skeptical of the proposed DJI drone ban, due in part to the heavy lobbying of US-based uncrewed aerial systems, or UAS, manufacturers such as Skydio that would like to displace DJI. Such companies hope to gain more market share within the US market as autonomous commercial drone applications grow in popularity. In August 2023, Skydio ended all sales of its drones to consumers to focus 100% on the enterprise market. Anyway, enough quoting that article. So again, it's kind of dated, but the argument still stands. We now have US companies partnering with China in a sense to replicate their products. And I mentioned the first half, the TikTok ban that passed isn't necessarily a ban on the app itself. It's a ban on its parent company, which is based in China. And if they sell to a US company, then we're all okay. We get to have our app. This is in my opinion, as someone who believes in full freedom of speech, as a creative, it's kind of problematic. Because although it's not a party affiliation, just because the president is a Democrat, and regardless, the president could be a Republican or an independent, it's still problematic no matter what type of administration you're in, because now a country founded on immigrants, a country founded as known to be a melting pot of diverse cultures, is now banning another country's goods from being sold within the country. Very interesting. Do I agree or disagree with the ban? Again, I am not saying that. But do I think this is a problem? I do think so, regardless if I support the measure or not. Because now this opens the argument for other companies, other actors, other other states, other foreign states. China's, although a big manufacturer, they don't manufacture everything. So does this now put us in this conversation where if something was manufactured in Sweden, just because they're our ally, we're okay with it? You see where my conversation's trying to lead to? It's like, how do we say we believe in freedom of speech, but we're banning we're banning Americans who willingly want to purchase this product from purchasing it? It's my right to, technically. But again, I do understand the argument that it is This is a risk of national security, especially coming from the place that is Guam, which is the tip of the spear. For those of you who don't know, which is kind of weird because a majority of my audience is from Guam and the CNMI, Guam and the CNMI played a pivotal role in World War II due to our geopolitical situation, our geopolitical area. They flew the planes that bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki from Ruta for most of you people. That's a 10-minute airplane ride from here. It's 3 hours by a commercial airplane to get to Japan. It's 4 hours by another commercial airplane to get to Korea. According to Republican dictator, it takes 8 minutes for a missile to get to Guam. That's how close we are to the rest of Asia. And China's so close to there. That's why Guam is very important to the United States. And that's also why I also understand that this is problematic for both sides, whether you agree or disagree with the bill. Because when you think about it, where does it go? Where does the data go? For the article previously mentioned that a lot of mapping is done by these Chinese drones, which is true. Recently, YouTuber Potato Jet showed a video of drone usage on how farmers are using drones to spread pesticide on greenhouses. It's safer. You don't have to worry about injuring a person. Granted, some greenhouses you might need to have a person spray the sides, but that's safer than having someone stand on the roof. Now you have a drone to do that, to spread the pesticide on there. But that drone is still made by a foreign actor that is not friendly to the United States and its allies in a sense. So what do we do now? And I think that's where Elon Musk actually, to me, say what you want to say about the man, but I'm actually in full support of X, formerly known as Twitter. And for those of you who don't know, which is kind of weird because this is a very dated topic, X was made, Musk has been, a lot of articles came out. This one's by fortune.com, and this came out last year around this time, July 24, 2023. He says he wants to create a digital town square where anything goes. Essentially, full freedom of speech. In a class that I had back in college, political philosophy, at that time I said full freedom of speech is problematic because we need. At that time, I argued that we needed censorship to protect people. But now, after growing up, I actually do agree with full freedom of speech. That doesn't mean I don't think that if someone says the N-word, that they shouldn't get socked in the face. Right? Time and place. That doesn't mean I don't think you should say bomb in the middle of an airport. All right? Freedom of speech does not mean that you are free from getting consequences of what you say. So, just like how if you drop an F-bomb to your partner is free to break up with you in a less severe manner, severe depending on if you really love your partner or not. Anyway, oh shoot. Oops, moved the table. That was a squeaky wiki. Hold on. Perfect excuse to drink this canned drink over here. Ooh, a reporter juice. Anyway. So it's a very interesting thing that's happening right now in the United States because, again, they argue it's a sense of national security. And they're like, you can still have your cake and eat it too. The cake just has to be made by the U.S. baker. It can't be made by a Chinese baker anymore. It has to be made by a U.S. baker. Or at least a U.S. baker trained by the Chinese baker. Hence why, again, what was the name? Hold on, I didn't memorize the name. Anzu. Hence why Anzu is making a one-to-one replica with the DJI Mavic 3. It's just colored green because USA. Granted, USA is red, white, and blue, but what do we have in camo? Green. The article from the Robo Report says, what's the possible impact of a U.S. ban on DJI drones? Quoting the article, a lot of commercial drone operators, including fire departments and other public safety groups, have said that the countering CCP drone bills would make it illegal for DJI drones to use U.S. communication infrastructure. This isn't a complete ban, but it would make DJI drones useless in the US, especially for any business, state, or local government that might use a DJI drone. The article then goes on to say the potential approval of the legislation has sent the commercial drone industry into a panic, especially search and rescue teams that have heavily invested in DJI drones for their operations. Granted, this article is a little dated because the bill passed in Congress last week as of this recording, which I mentioned in the first half. What do we do now? Because it's not only a creative tool. I've said it before, creative tools is also something for the regular masses. These drones are not only used to make dope videos, they're also used for search and rescue. You know how many times I've used the drone to check if there's a leak in my roof? A lot. Granted, I'm at a space where I can fly it. So what happens now? Could you argue this is now tyranny of the government, or could you argue this is for our protection? And I think that's the beauty of the democratic system. A lot of you might say, Don, you're backpedaling. Don, you got to pick a side. No, I'm not going to pick a side because I do see both, as someone who is in the middle of a geopolitical conundrum right now with Asia because of where I'm at. I do get it. I do see the art. Believe it or not, although I don't have tinfoil in my head, I do see what if China is able to access our information. Shoot, back in middle school, I had someone say they could hack into the mainframe just because we're in the same, or hack into my computer because we're in the same Wi-Fi network. I didn't believe it at the time, but now look what happened. We have VPNs. This episode is brought to you by NordVPN. No, I wish. Get my subscriber count up. Get me some money. Anyway, what I'm saying is, creatives, now is our time to actually do our part in the political system, do our part, and actually invest. Because people always say, why do I have to care about politics? Politics affect everybody. Take a look, regardless of whether or not you support the whoever's on the presidential ballot, from the Democrat to the Republican to the independent candidates. Those are Biden, Trump, and Kennedy. Never thought I'd say a Kennedy in my lifetime as a presidential candidate, mind you. I'm 27. I never thought I'd say Kennedy as a presidential candidate. Nor do I care because, again, I can't vote because I am a statutory citizen. Well, I can vote if I have land in the US and I paid their taxes. Anyway, to conclude the story, to wrap the story, what I'm trying to say is we have to get, although I like to say we're not going to get political here. Everything's political. My job as a podcaster, and I hope that you take from this episode, is the bare minimum is, oh my God, this almost dropped. The bare minimum as your duty, regardless if you're a statutory citizen, meaning you belong to regardless if you're a statutory citizen, meaning that you belong to but are not a part of the United States in my case, meaning that full US rights of the Constitution do not apply to you, or you're a full US citizen born in the United States paying taxes over there, it applies to you, so you must be politically aware. As a creative, if you're doing well, you pay taxes. You can't escape taxes, man. If there's one thing that's guaranteed, it's taxes. I think someone said life, death, and taxes are the only three guaranteed things in the world. And right now, whoever's president will affect your taxes. And whoever's president in this upcoming election will affect your creative process. Because now if you have a DJI system, they may ban drones now. Who's to say they won't ban their microphones or their cameras next? Who knows? I don't know. That affects you as a creative because you've invested. If your ecosystem is all DJI, that affects you. So although this topic is kind of more mature, I'm going to argue, it's I really hope that you do your due diligence, even though if you can't vote like me, this is the time to raise your voice. If you have the energy to voice your concerns about what's happening in Palestine, which is again an atrocity, you should also have the energy to advocate for what's happening locally and nationally within your country and your island, in my case. So, my dear friends, don't forget to click the Amazon link down below. Get me some money. And if you'd like to have some dope photos, hit me up on DD Studio 670 on Instagram or DONDON6701452 at gmail.com. If you'd like to sponsor the show. And again, please, por favor, get me some sponsors. We're gonna have fun. This is a very, notice how it was serious, but not really. My ADHD was all over the place. Anyway, love y'all. Until next time, stay chelo. Adios.